Will a Donald Trump-brokered truce between Israel and Hamas finally last? Or is it destined to collapse just like all the ones before? Tonight we explore the fraught history, the hidden dynamics, and the near inevitability of renewed war. The Gaza Strip is a densely packed, highly impoverished enclave on the Mediterranean coast, about 365 square kilometers, housing nearly 2 million Palestinians. Since 2007, Gaza has been ruled by Hamas, an Islamist militant group that seized power from the rival Fatah Palestinian Authority. Israel enforces a tight blockade of Gaza's land, air, and sea access, citing security concerns about weapon smuggling to Hamas. Over the past 2 decades, periodic rounds of conflict have erupted: 2008, 09, 2012, 2014, 2021, and more recently since October 2023. The cycle is grim. Hamas launches rockets or infiltrates attacks. Israel retaliates with airstrikes, artillery, sometimes ground operations, and Gaza endures massive civilian casualties and destruction. Over the years, multiple ceasefires have been brokered via mediators like Egypt, Qatar, the UN, and the United States. Almost invariably, they break down, with each side accusing the other of violations. Local clashes, mortar fire, or rocket launches from Gaza are framed by Israel as provocations justifying resumed strikes, and Israel's retaliation often involves disproportionate force: large airstrikes, shelling of civilian areas, targeting of infrastructure. In March 2025, a bilateral truce was in place, but Israel launched a surprise, heavy air campaign on the 18th of March, breaking the truce and claiming Hamas refused to extend it or release hostages. The Israeli government under Prime Minister Netanyahu formally announced resumed combat in full force that same evening. Thus, the pattern repeats. Hamas launches or provokes, Israel responds massively, and the ceasefire breaks. It is often framed as Hamas firing first, Israel responding, but the asymmetry of power means Israel escalates far beyond what triggered the conflict. Preconditions for a truce are always ambitious, often impossible. Hamas is asked to completely disarm, surrendering all weapons, tunnels, and rearmament. It must relinquish governance of Gaza, release all hostages, and accept oversight of demilitarization and reconstruction by neutral authorities. Guarantees and monitoring would be enforced by third parties. Israel would only partially withdraw, contingent on compliance, while Hamas would commit to no future rocket attacks or terror operations. But complete disarmament is essentially impossible, given Hamas's identity is tied to armed resistance, and many of its supporters view weapons as essential for survival. Agreeing to this would mean political extinction, a surrender of their raison d'etre. Trump and Netanyahu unveiled a 20-point Gaza peace plan in September 2025. Israel would suspend operations and withdraw to an agreed line, while Hamas would be excluded from governing Gaza. Hostages would be released within 72 hours, and Israel would free 1,700 Gazan detainees plus 250 prisoners serving life sentences, along with remains exchanges. No one would be forced to leave Gaza, though those wishing to leave could. Hamas would relinquish all military and offensive infrastructure and play no role in future governance. Gaza would be reconstructed, demilitarized, and governed by a technocratic committee under an international board of peace led by Trump and others, possibly including Tony Blair. Israel would stay in control of major security tasks and would not cede full sovereignty initially. Netanyahu publicly endorsed this plan, with caveats. At the joint press conference with Trump, Netanyahu pledged support but warned of consequences. He said Israel would act the easy way or the hard way if Hamas rejected or breached the deal. He clarified Israel would not accept a Palestinian state under the plan, and the Israeli Defense Forces would remain in much of Gaza. In his UN address, he warned Hamas, "Lay down your arms, let my people go. If you don't, Israel will hunt you down." He also pledged Israel would finish the job against Hamas, even as condemnation mounted. His rhetoric leaves no doubt: compliance is optional, but betrayal means war. Even if the deal begins with hostage and prisoner swaps, it almost certainly unravels. The mistrust is too deep. Hardline factions within Hamas may refuse to disarm, while others wait for a chance to resume attacks. Indoctrination runs deep. Generations of Palestinians raised under siege and conflict, where militant resistance is glorified. Children in schools perform plays dressed as fighters, pointing toy guns at classmates cast as Jews, a grim picture of radicalization. Even if Hamas stands down temporarily, splinter groups may fire rockets or attack Israeli forces, provoking immediate retaliation. Any mortar, sniper fire, or border skirmish could ignite the conflict. Israel's position is clear. Any violation justifies overwhelming force. As long as core grievances remain, occupation, blockade, refugee status, Jerusalem, ceasefires are pauses, not solutions. Political pressure within Israel, from the right-wing public and security establishment, ensures no tolerance for weakness, while external spoilers like Iran and Hezbollah may provoke conflict. Thus, even a successful swap is at best a temporary lull, not real peace. The possible endings are bleak. The truce may collapse in weeks, with one violation restarting war. A partial ceasefire could calm some zones while others flare. If Hamas rejects or breaks the deal, Israel may launch a full-scale assault to eliminate it, costing immense civilian lives. Gaza could fragment, ruled by multiple authorities. An international governance plan could fail, collapsing into corruption and leaving a vacuum for militants to re-emerge. Or in the most extreme scenario, Gaza's population could be relocated elsewhere. Trump's radical proposal. Earlier in 2025, Trump suggested relocating Gaza's population as a reset. He proposed the U.S. could take over Gaza, rebuild it as a technological resort, and relocate Palestinians temporarily or permanently to other countries. Later, he softened this to voluntary or temporary relocation under pressure from regional states. Still, critics called it ethnic cleansing, a violation of international law, and an impossible demographic disruption. Europe has absorbed millions of refugees since 2015, but expecting it, or Muslim-majority states to take in 2 million Gazans permanently, is seen as absurd. Yet, Trump argues, if Israelis and Palestinians cannot coexist, separation through relocation is the only solution. The narrative of this conflict, however, seems predetermined. Once upon a time, in a land of ancient strife, Gaza bled under siege, and Israel lived under rocket fire. Hostages are taken, mediators broker peace, cameras capture smiles. But behind closed doors, weapons remain ready. Hamas fires first, Israel retaliates with overwhelming force, and civilians die by the thousands. A ceasefire is signed, but whispers of betrayal soon follow. Netanyahu warns, "Lay down your arms. If you don't, Israel will hunt you down." Hamas pledges disarmament on paper, but resists in spirit. Children are raised in resistance. Then, one night, mortars fly, and the cycle begins again. Even if hostages are freed and prisoners return home, the demands, zero violations, full disarmament, are impossibly high. Israel's patience is thin, its threats harsh. Perhaps Israel launches a final assault. Perhaps Gaza fractures. Perhaps Hamas is defeated, only to rise again. Or perhaps the unthinkable, millions relocated abroad, comes into play. But the moral and human cost would be immense. In the end, a truce is not a treaty, it is only a pause. Unless Hamas transforms from militant resistance to political cooperation, Israel and Gaza will never rest long. Will the Trump solution hold, or collapse under its impossible demands? Will Netanyahu's vow be tested again? History tells us the answer is almost predetermined. A fragile peace, followed by another war.